Lasers. Lasers are so...
90s?
I was gonna say 70s. Can you please stop making me feel old?
Got bad news for you, Sam. You are old.
Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Splinter Cell Chaos Theory Expert Difficulty 100% walkthrough. This is Mission 6, it is entitled Hokkaido. Back in the day, this was one of my favourite missions in Splinter Cell, because I have a rather large appreciation for, shall we say, Japanese culture, which is to say, an ignorant appreciation of Japanese culture, because I've never been to Japan, and I just kind of like Japanese-looking things without, you know, taking it to an extreme. My main interests are feudal Japan, and of course the Bushido of the samurai, and the difference between the Ronins and what have you, and essentially shit that's got katanas in it and people wearing crazy-looking gis and things. That kind of stuff, you know. I watched far too many Lone Wolf and Cub movies when I was younger, shall we say. But I just liked the general flow of this level, and I liked it a lot. When I've come back to it, it's a very different kind of level than I remember it being, and I don't know if that's because this is a different version of it, because I actually played this game on the PlayStation 2. And for those of you that don't know, the original Xbox was considerably more powerful than the PlayStation 2, because it was developed afterwards, and it was, of course, kind of like a low-grade PC at the time. So the games, these were designed around that kind of technology in mind. They were generally a little bit larger and a little bit different on that system, and they had to make, you know, creative choices to trim certain sections and streamline them so that they could actually make them work on those, shall we say, less powerful consoles. So if you played this, if you played Double Agent, they were rather different games, even so much as the first Splinter Cell. The first Splinter Cell has areas that exist on the Xbox version that just simply aren't there on the PlayStation 2, and it's the slight things that can throw you off, and it's those things that can be very difficult to tell. You just know something's weird and something's different. For instance, in this courtyard here, there's a couple of cars, and I remember scanning the license plates on the cars, and I don't know why I did that, because playing this version, there's no objective to do it, but I think in the PlayStation 2 version there was. Maybe to supersede a later objective that didn't exist in that version of the game. Suffice to say, I remember scanning those cars, so there's a part of my brain that's at conflict with what the game is telling me right now, where I kind of want to scan those cars, but I suppress it up until the end. And of course paranoia gets the better of me then, and I'm worried that I'm going to fail the 100%, so I think, fuck it, I'm just going to scan the cars, you know, for a laugh, and hopefully everything goes okay. Something worth noting too, this is going to be a really dark video, guys. It's one of those things where the capture device doesn't directly translate to what my television is, because I play on a 42-inch television that I sit rather close to, and as dark as this looks on your screen right now, it looked better on my TV, as you can imagine, so that's why I don't go that often to my night vision goggles. And there's a story behind this that I might have shared, which I'll reiterate for those who haven't heard it. There's a joke that Hayden often says where, back in the old days, I used to have a shitty CRTV, as we all did back then, and the colours on the TV weren't so great. So anything that was dark was really, really dark, and I pretty much had to play the entirety of these games with night vision goggles, and famously so, because Aiden will never forget it, apparently. So I think there's a part of me that's actively trying not to use them when I've played these, because I remember that experience and I remember it unfavourably. Consciously, I don't think that's true, because I think the night vision goggles are perfectly fine and useful. I just don't think the aesthetic on this game is as good as it was in the other ones. So you'll notice I don't really use them too much because of more of an aesthetical thing than anything else. I like things to look good.
Shit, what was that?
I'm incredibly shallow when it comes to visuals. It comes from being, you know, having an art background, coming from design. Like, if you change a font, or if there's something about the font that I don't like, even if it's something small like an accent or the use of a drop shadow or something, or a gradient, that's enough for me to be like, nope, don't like it. So I can be incredibly particular when it comes to things like that, so for whatever reason, the night vision in this is not my favourite. But this particular EMP mode that you see me using here is really important on the level. It's not going to help you navigate, but it's going to help you find these hidden microphones, because one of the secondary objectives is to is to disable all these microphones. Usually, the easiest way to spot them is they're next to a telephone, and then the second easiest way to spot them is when you have the EMP mode on. They are a circular mine-looking item in walls, and when you take off your vision, there's nothing there because, of course, they've been hidden. And this is a one recording, this mission, and because of that, it's like a 40-minute video. If I'd have done this again, I might have been able to do it slightly quicker, but as it stands, I think it's perfectly apt at getting you through what you need to do. It's just we're going to be taking it at a rather slow pace, because sometimes that patience is truly a virtue, so it's going to really help you out. But you can't see much here, and I apologise, folks.
There's something fishy here.
Right there, you'll notice one of my steps was slightly louder, and somebody picked it up and he heard it. All I'm looking for here is alternative methods through areas, because you never know when you're going to find something that's really, really useful. And I realise where this is, I realise it's not really helping me too much, so I just have a double check to see if there's anything more secretive, and then we're going to backtrack to where we came from,
Footsteps, maybe.
because it's going to be more advantageous for us. However, we have notified a guy above that there's people, you know, walking about, and it's going to make him a little trickier to navigate around. Luckily enough, he's not looking at me, so I can get the hell out of this, and we can go back where we were.
No one here.
But the trickiest aspect of this mission is if you do not know where the bugs are, finding those. There's going to be a lot of times in this video when I'm going to be checking rooms for those bugs purely out of the fact that I don't know where the locations are. That's one of the things I underestimated about this walkthrough, was just sheerly some of the pedantic nature of some of these side mission objectives. Because when I was younger and I first played this, I didn't actually know how to get 100%. Like, I didn't have the internet in my house when I was playing this game. I was just like fucking making shit up. So I was getting 92%, 98%, and I was just like, this game is hard as shit. There's just something I'm missing. I didn't really pay much attention to understand what was screwing me and what wasn't. As you'll notice right now, I'm checking to make sure there's no secret doors, because one of the things you'll find in levels such as this, when the architecture is very similar, you know, very minimalist and samey, is there are often sneaky little slides, sneaky little ventilation shafts that you might miss, and at this moment in time there is a guard walking, so that's the reason why I'm being slightly tentative here. But this is probably going to be one of the slower videos in the set, mainly because I didn't mess this level up. The ones following this are going to be some of the most meticulous and fast-paced, purely because I fucked them up a ton. Like, Battery is gonna be such a cathartic experience. Bathhouse is another one where I'm gonna be like, fuck this level, I'm so glad that this is done because it's not fun. Soul only got me, I think, once or twice, and it was Silly Things. And then I can't really remember the other ones, so you'll have to bear with me. Kokobu Shosho I got on the second attempt. The first attempt, I saved myself into a dead end, so I don't really count that. Which is annoying as hell, because if I'd have been a little bit further forward, I could have salvaged it. But I ended up getting screwed by a mechanic that I was unsure about, which we'll talk about when we get there. So there's a guy moving around this kitchen. The shadow work on this game is fantastic, considering its age. Really, really good shadows. Really, really good lighting too. So he's walked over there into another pool of shadow. We're just going to wait, see what he can do. It's quite tricky to see exactly what he's doing on this screen. He's walking back, so we're getting an estimation of his pattern, and we know he's going to stand there for a while, so we're probably going to make our move when he stops. But at the same time, maybe not, because he's walking towards us now. Interesting. I think I know this guy comes to this doorway where I am, so I'm waiting for him to do that. I could be wrong, though. Yeah, here he comes. I think this is it. So he's turned to face us. Or is he facing away? I think he's facing away, yeah. Look at his shadow. His shadow is... That's what I remembered. I knew he stood at this doorway, so we were waiting just then for him to do exactly that. And when he turns around, we're going to get him. Because we've been here, what, a minute or two? Nobody else has been around, nobody else to interfere. There we go. Grab the... I don't know if this guy is Japanese or Chinese or whatever. I don't know what the military force is at this particular part of the game. It might even be the PMC, whose nationalities, you know, every nationality, I guess.
Well, I hope they have a good health.
But we're doing a quick interrogation, see what this guy knows. It's always worth doing, and I was tempted to trim this kind of stuff out, but there'll be those people that ask me why I didn't do it, and I did do it, I just trimmed it out, so sometimes it can be easier for transparency reasons to leave certain actions like that in. But pushing into this kitchen now, great lighting. I'm just double checking the room for some bugs, can't seem to see anything, and what the hell was that? It's one of those creaky floor parts that you avoid when you're trying to navigate your home at night. But this is going to lead us back out into another courtyard, and this courtyard is, if it's the one I'm thinking of, yeah, this one is not too bad. There are two guys talking, as you can hear, and this is one of those sequences that if you can get quite far into the room while they're still doing their dialogue, you can get a nice advantageous position on them. However, you have to linger here because you have to get rid of bugs and you know, perform the standard Splinter Cell-y stuff, which makes it sound almost like a salad ingredient. So wait for the conversation to end. We already know there's a bug on the left. These two people are too incompetent to find it, but you'll notice the guy directly in front of us is actually actively seeking the bugs out. So he's going to be checking the wall in front of us there and the wall to our right. So I'm sneaking over here with full immunity, knowing I have enough time to grab his friend and dump his friend in the shadows. So he's been grabbed and we're going to move on. Another thing to point out as well, I get some people who I don't think they keep up with the commentary sometimes, which can be difficult to do thanks to sarcasm and satire and things of that nature. But whenever I make a joke at the expense of the fact that Sam Fisher is a dude in the shadows with a bunch of glow sticks on him and massive torch that nobody can see, it's a joke, guys. I appreciate the mechanical uses of the goggle lights and the light on Sam's back. It's to inform the player of where they are when they're in shadows. It is a mechanical conceit so that the game flows. At the same time, it's still stupid that we effectively have these candles on our faces and nobody can see them. So whenever I dryly point out the fact that we are essentially a shadowed Christmas tree that nobody can see, it is always in the pursuit of just silliness. It's not, you know, I'm not poking out an inconsistency with the game. I'm just, you might be missing the joke is what I'm trying to get across. And unfortunately, a lot of people miss jokes, so you get some very interesting comments. Twitter's rife for it. I'll say something that is essentially rhetorically stupid, and someone will try and answer it like it was a question, because, you know, social interaction can sometimes be quite difficult, especially when you're reading text, because it can be difficult to discern what people are you know, the intention behind it, if there's any ulterior motives to it, the context, all that kind of great stuff. But disable the mic, and once again, we're going to be pushing forward into another gardened area. We're making decent progress through the level. It's quite long, this one, but it's also longer because of the meticulous way I'm going to be approaching it. So, traverse through the immaculate ventilation systems that the Hokkaido dojo, or whatever this is, seems to have. I can't imagine the type of stuff that would accumulate in such a giant hole. Like, you'd have families of stray cats living in them. They're unbelievably huge, and I'm glad they are, because they can fit a Michael Ironside through them, but at the same time, it is quite funny to see these gaping holes everywhere. Like, it'd be nice if the AI at any point was like, "Do you feel a draft?" Because it must be drafty as shit in these houses. This is a pretty interesting room. There's 3 guys in here. There's 2 people with guns, and then there's Jackie Chan doing his thing. So, the guy in the middle in the dressing gown, I believe, is a cleaner, but for some reason they have him stereotypically doing kung fu. I don't know why, but I'm happy he does it, because it brightens up an otherwise, you know, simplistic looking room. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put out that light, That didn't work. My intentions for doing that was to try and draw people away from where we want to go, so we can get a nice path. But you'll notice they're walking away anyway, so I'm going to put the light out here. I'm going to walk with the gun out up to as close as I can. I'm going to put the light out, and then I'm going to bomb it across this courtyard, and I'm going to hope that nobody sees this giant sneaking man in his figure-hugging neoprene suit or whatever the hell this thing is. But I'm just double-checking the goals here, and I went to the wrong menu then. So I was checking to see whether or not we'd got all the microphones, and that's normally the type of stuff that I would remove in a walkthrough, but I'm choosing to keep it in on this one because a lot of the times objectives are quite important and it gives you an idea of the progression of them in certain circumstances. And I think sometimes that can be important. And you should be doing that a lot, by the way, guys. Just because you don't see me going into my secondary objectives all the time doesn't mean I wasn't doing it. Like, I would often, in between captures, I would check them then so that I didn't have to do any extra editing, even though that's the type of editing that's really easy to do. Because on the timeline, the music generally mutes or comes down in volume when you go into a menu in this game, or in the Splinter Cell games. So on the timeline, you can see the wavelength shift. Incredibly easy to spot. It's easier to remove than it is to leave it in. Like, that is literally how simple it is, but as I've mentioned earlier, I do think that kind of stuff is going to help people keep track on what they're doing. Also to make sure that none of the objectives updated and something snuck up on them, because there's nothing worse than doing the objective and getting tunnel visioned into it, and then not realising there was a bonus objective you missed because you were so focused on doing the bullshit, nonsensical, pick up all the flower tips, or whatever it wants to have you doing. But over here is a pretty sneaky vent. Once again, the vents are generally pretty arbitrary experiences. They go forward, they might have a couple of branching paths, but for the most, they're always very direct. So I don't really have to mess with goggles when I'm in them, because it shouldn't really be that difficult to traverse a vent, hopefully. And this room here, this room has one guy who's patrolling around it. You can mess with the sprinkler system in here, which will get his attention. You can also climb a pipe that's to my right that I haven't seen because of the depth of the darkness, but it's just there. It's a really good strategy, actually. But I turn the sprinklers on just to see what it does. And I'm backing up to the vent just in case he comes this way. One of the things that the NPCs have a tendency of doing in Chaos Theory is pulling torches, and whereas torches aren't the end of the world, they certainly can throw a wrench in the mechanics. But this guy's thorough, and he's also incredibly vocal. Everybody in Splinter Cell games are incredibly vocal. I do like it. It is dumb, but I still like it. So we're going to break a light, or we're going to attempt to, and it didn't work. So, look up, see the sky, blood red sky, seek the pale moon, or seek the pale blood, sorry. But I still haven't seen it. It's right there, you see that? I think I might have seen it then. Did I see it then? Yes, I've seen it, finally. So, if you climb up here, it puts you on this little alcove above this guy's patrol route, and it is the quickest way through this room. I don't think this place has any microphones. I could be wrong, you'll see me check. The cool news here is you do have what sounds like a radio or some kind of television playing, so you can get some of the more interesting things they add in games back in this generation of games, rather than selling it to you later for a nominal fee. And it's kind enough to loop so we can get the full story as well, which is always fun. But I'm watching this guy's pattern. I know I'm in darkness, but you don't know that you're in darkness when you drop. However, now we do. So that is a very safe drop, a very safe path through that room. And we have to be really careful here, because this is where Splinter Cell gets dangerous. Whenever you're in close confinements that have a mixture of light and darkness, you can straight up walk into a room and bump into a guard, and you're back at the safe point. Like just then, I walked into the room and boom, there's a dude bang there. He can't see me, but he knows something's there, which means he's going to cross the room and have a quick look. So we strafe around him as he's gone the other way, and we're now back in the welcome blanket of dark. So one dude in here. Can't really see anything else happening. Probably going to take him out as he gets a little close to me. Going to palm slap his cheek off. Oh no, grab him. Look at that Shadow. Shadow looks really good. Like, I was just playing Mortal Kombat 10 on the PC. And I'm kind of glad I didn't buy it for the PC. Because it doesn't play well at all. But friend's like, yeah, I'll bring it round. I haven't tried it yet. We'll try it on yours, seeing as your computer's better than mine. Bang it on. Frame rate's like 30 to 45 at best. And regardless of the quality settings, the frame rate's still complete dog shit. Like, my computer can run Shadow of Mordor at max with fraps at the same time, and I never have a single hitch or any problem yet. A game that I think looks technically inferior to that game on high spec just doesn't run well at all. And the shadows in that game, one of the options is you can turn down the shadow detail, and we turned everything down, and the frame rate was still shitty. It was not 60 at all. Like, super poorly optimized. I don't know what they've done, but it's really bad. And I checked my CPU. My CPU was high. It was hitting about 55% to 70%, but it wasn't maxing, so there's no reason for it to be dropping like that. And it just, like, it's that moment where I'm like, dude, God bless you, but I don't think this is going to work on your PC. And he got a little bit worried, but you never know. Maybe, you know, maybe my PC's too full or something, because at this moment in time I've got a lot of footage on it that I need to delete once it's all uploaded and what have you. I have no idea, but it sucks that you can buy a game in this day and age and not be able to play it. That's the stuff that I've always hated about PC gaming in general. Like, everybody asks me, like, Chris, why don't you play it on PC? Because you never know if it's gonna fucking work. Like, I don't want to constantly be upgrading specs and pieces inside my machine so that I can make sure that a game doesn't crash. Like, I've always been against it, because to me, you've got to be a very particular type of person to be able to put up with that, and I can't. Like, it really frustrates me that consoles now have that mandatory installation on them, because the whole point in console gaming to me is that it's kind of a more casual approach. It's a more accessible, more immediate approach. You don't need to know how to do PC shit. You just pop a disc in and it works. Well, now that's not the case. Now it does all its bullshit that it does on PC anyway, so like, the gap between being a PC and being a console is blurring all the time, and I think it's blurring in a bad way, because as we're going to get these better technologies and this better hardware, we're also going to get the bullshit that comes with it. Like, and I don't think that's a good thing, because I don't personally like doing it. I'm not somebody who loves going into like the crazy coding of a game and changing a very specific aspect of its code so that something will work. Like, that to me is my idea of hell, because I just don't know enough about it, and I don't aspire to know enough about it, because it's just, it bores me. It does. Like, I like this part. I like to play the game. I don't necessarily need to go into all the subfiles and the folders and code, because I can't do that, you know. It's not my ambition to go through 15 minutes worth of YouTube tutorials and forum bullshit. Like, to me, that's time that could be spent playing. And, you know, if your time is precious, there's nothing worse than bullshit. Like, I can't even count on one hand the amount of times where I've put a disc in my Xbox One where I've only had like an hour or two to spare before I've had to go and do something, and I've completely forgot that it does that bullshit install stuff. Like, I'm there, I'll play it for 20 minutes and then I'll continue doing some editing or whatever I'm doing that day, and I pop it in and it's like, updating, installing, and you just think, oh my goodness, what happened to just playing for 5 minutes and then fucking off? It just doesn't exist anymore. It's not something that exists. And the Namco copyright on stuff to do while games load is actually about to run out or has run out, so maybe we'll see, you know, more intuitive systems to help these installs actually be enjoyable. Because the problem with a lot of them is you can't do anything while it does it. Like, the one thing that PC is amazing for is generally when you're doing something on it like that, you can open up a tab or you can be somewhere else and do something else. And that's awesome, because that's what PCs do best, you know, they're so functional like that. But consoles, when you're doing certain things on them, like, no, we're focusing on this and everything else can die. And it's incredibly frustrating, because at that point, it's not a games console, you know, it's a paperweight with a noisy fan. Like, and I appreciate that it's just the nature of the beast. Like, we can't expect this quality, these visuals and this power without, you know, some hiccups and some costs, because nothing comes without cost. But I think sometimes that's a big cost, especially when you come from a generation of games where, like, there are certain games that boost incredibly quickly and the gameplay is only like 5 or 10 minutes. Like, I used to play shmups, you know, quite dedicatedly, and that is a game experience that you can have a fully fledged experience in under 10 minutes, you know, if you can't get very far. And if you can get far, it might be double that and you beat the game. And to some people, they might think, well, that's a waste of money, but that's what that is. It's pure gameplay. It's not loading screens, it's not cutscenes, it's not exposition, it's not menus, it's fucking gameplay. It's you against the machine. It's in the purest form. And that's coming from somebody who used to play Commodore 64 games, which took longer to load than those games take to beat. So I appreciate, you know, that loading is coming on a good, fine way, but like with patches and updates, certain games don't let you play them unless you update them. It used to be that they don't let you play them online, but now it's like if you're not online, some of the games don't even work. And I found that out with Bloodborne, because for some reason, when you digitally download a game on the PlayStation 4, I don't know if it's the licensing or whatever it is, there's an aspect of those games that require internet to allow you to play them. It just padlocks it. And it's like, no, can't do this, fuck off. Like, that's a fair, nice thing. I paid for this, I got this, why can't I play it without internet? I don't know. It's one of those weird things, like, there's probably some crazy legal grounds for and against this, but I just don't know enough about it. What I do know is I hope we streamline it, and I don't know if that's pursuing SSDs or what, or when internet's just, you know, god tier and it makes what we've got now look like dial-up. I don't really know what the solution is, but as it stands, I think we're suffering, and it's a very third world problem, clearly. Yeah, it's about as first world as it gets, isn't it? Worrying and being annoyed by install times. But I still think it's a legitimate issue, and we didn't used to have it outside of, like, PC gaming, because that's just how it used to be. You know, when I put a game into my Mega Drive, I didn't wait an hour for a 4 gig patch to download, or whatever the size. Like, I think I'd be pretty grateful to get 4 gigs in an hour on my internet. But Far Cry 4, great example. Far Cry 4 is a big game. It is a really big game. It took a while to install it. I played it before Bloodborne came out for about a week, and then Bloodborne came out, and I haven't played it since. That was like a month ago. I put it on yesterday just to try and, you know, run around, shoot some animals and shit, and do some stuff. This game has a 1 gig update. 1083 meg or something silly like that. Like, what the fuck is that adding that game doesn't already have? And I'm like, can I just play and not have this thing that does probably something really miscellaneous, or maybe something really great? Like, I don't know. Can I just not play? And I ended up turning it off because I didn't have the time to sit for that to be doing that shit. Like, it stops everything then. You're watching a stream while you play, boom, stream's buffering, great. Like, everything you're doing halts at that point. And I have no idea how we fight it, or how we change it, or how we refine it, because I think it's a really difficult thing. Like, games are getting bigger, the technology is more powerful, but it's also more of a strain on it. And I don't know if it's because games are being forced out. I think that could be a pretty valid point. Something worth noting here, guys, I got seen just then, so this guy would come towards this external area, so we could grab him and we could make moving through this next zone a little easier. This next zone is tricky because there's a lot of glass and the enemies have really good sensors, so they will see you at some ridiculous ranges.
Nothing.
But I think it could be maybe a product of the cycle of a game. Games didn't have 12-month cycles and then they were dumped out in November. That's not how it used to work. It couldn't work that way. It just wasn't feasible, because sequels were a thing, but they weren't an annualized thing in the same way. You know, there was a plan. It was generally a 3 to 5 year plan on games, sometimes longer, and I hate to say it, but I think it was a better way of doing it. What we have now, you see, is we have this incredibly expensive process where only guaranteed sellers get made in the face of innovative new ideas, and they're made on such a schedule where there's often, you know, more than one team working at the same time so that they can leapfrog releases and always have something coming out, that I think it's hurting the performance of the games. And I think a great example of this would be Assassin's Creed Unity, which is a game I haven't played, so I can't really speak too much about it, but I heard the backlash from it, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it, of the games that have been released in the last 12 months, can you name a single one that didn't get a day one patch, or a patch within the first month of its life, that wasn't for balance reasons? I'm talking a performance patch, because I don't think you can. I think almost every game that gets put out now has something broken on launch that would have been fixed if the development cycle was longer. I'm talking loading problems, crashing problems, game-breaking bug problems, you know, things that just probably existed 10 to 15 years ago, but you didn't see them because they were either incredibly rare or they were found and removed before the game was shipped. Like, think of any of the games that you've played in your past that you really, really love and that you play and you never see these kind of issues with, even though they might have those kind of issues. And then look into how long it was in development, because I'm telling you now, it probably wasn't 12 months. It probably wasn't 2 years. It probably was longer. Because games were allowed to be produced. Oh, right there, by the way, guys, is a transition, because I didn't want to waste any more time. Believe it or not, we've wasted quite a lot of time in this. I got to that vent, and that vent is where you're supposed to go in that kind of bathroom area, before I recorded this conversation, because I thought this conversation was something that you didn't have to do. I thought this might have been something extra for like a bonus objective, so that's why I didn't do it. However, this is more important than that, so instead of showing you me moving all the way back, I have just transitioned to me coming back here, because if you remember earlier on, about 10 minutes or so ago, I came to this area, but I didn't go inside. I backtracked and I explored the other place. And what is going to happen, once you've finished with this conversation, two of the guards are going to walk out and he's going to walk in the other room and we're going to have to take him down. And it's a little tricky, but I've got a good strategy for you.
Never mind all that. The boss is on his way and things are heating up. We knew that would happen, so just stick to the plan, get this place tightened up and make sure that...
But I would love for developers to all have Remedy's attitude. But at the same time, it makes you wonder, would the release schedule for games suffer if that was the case? And if you're not too sure about who Remedy are a Finnish developer. They created Max Payne, they created Alan Wake, and they're creating Quantum Break, which is an Xbox One exclusive coming in 2016. This is a company who take their time with their games, and it shows, because when you play them, they've usually got a lot of attention to detail. They've generally got quite a lot of Easter eggs and things to discover that are outside of the general game, and there are touches of love that are missing from a lot of other games, and I think it is a beautiful thing. The games are by no means perfect, but they're incredibly good, in my opinion anyway. I think Remedy make fantastic games. However, that love and that affection that you can see in their games comes at a cost, and that cost is they generally take like 5 to 6 years to make. They get delayed. You know, it's not an easy process, game development. And I think we're seeing great evidence on what happens when you rush it. But then you've got to think also, like, contrary to this point of it'll affect the release schedule, take a look at this year's release schedule. We've got a ton in the early part of the year, between January to April. Then we've got nothing across the summer, except for, you know, like Arkham Knight, which is a pretty damn big one, admittedly, which is an intelligent release date. I've got to give it off to Rocksteady, guys, or whoever their publisher is. They know there's fuck all in the summer. They know there's always nothing in the summer, and they're bringing out, essentially, a game of the year in that period with no competition. Like, that is genius. But that kind of contradicts my point that I'm trying to make here just a little bit. Games are released in February or they're released in November. Everything else is null. Like, you can't negatively affect the release structure for games because it's already so goddamn negative. There's nothing there. Like, they use these 2 times and then they shove everything in them so that there's droughts for the rest of the year. And I'm not saying that you can't buy one game and play it for the rest of the year. I'm not saying that at all. There are a lot of people who might only buy 2 games a year, and they might not even finish them, but they've got something to play, and they do an hour here and an hour there, and it lasts them an eternity, and that's awesome, that's great if that's what you do. But I'm talking about the above average consumer of games, the person who wants to experience a lot of it, who's heavily vested in the industry, and who loves games, and who loves to play new experiences. That person has 3 or 4 titles that they're really into at the beginning of the year, and then nothing, and then 3 or 4 titles at the end of the year that they're really excited for, and there's just this void at the middle. So I don't think it would negatively affect it all that much, because I don't think it can. So I guess the moral of what I'm saying is, would we really suffer if we had longer development schedules? Would we really miss those games that maybe get passed over, or maybe you've lost interest in because there's so many of them being recycled right now? I don't think we would. But at the same time, we're not the publisher. We're not the person that wants money. You know, they're the ones who are making it this mass proliferated annual cycle of incredibly similar sequels, because they're the ones that are getting the results, they're the ones that are getting, you know, all this revenue, and it's working because people are paying, and people keep paying, so why would you not? So it is a double-sided sword, I think, this entire conversation. On the one hand, we could get better games, but we'd have to wait longer for them, a la The Witcher 3, great example. Or we can continue getting these day 1 4 gig patches, these horrendous loading times, these game-breaking bugs, and these, you know, coloured by commission, game-designed, annualised sequels. And which would you prefer, I guess, is probably the question. Because I know which one I would. And it ain't Assassin's Creed fucking China edition. But once you come through this vent, folks, there's going to be a little bit of dialogue here between these 2 people. And then it's going to kick off. And when it kicks off is when we have to take charge. We're coming up to the end of the level here. At this point, I think we've pretty much got most of the microphones, and I don't think there's any other real objectives. So, as long as you've not killed anybody, and as long as there's been no alarms, you should be perfectly fine when it comes to getting your 100% rank. So, time to get down, after we've dealt with a couple of dudes. So I really like the lighting on this level. I think it's a really great palette of colours and styles coming together. For a second there, I thought you could get next to the plant pot, but that is not the case, as we move into this room and we see the person that just got executed by the sword dude. So I'm double checking here to make sure that we've done everything. And as you can see from the objective list, we're all good. The only thing left to do now is try and eliminate Doug Shetland. Which, if you've played this game before, you'll understand that the objectives often update and often shift and change. So just because that's what it's asking of us right now doesn't necessarily mean that's what's about to happen. So, progress forward? Now that's a word. Forward, sorry. This way, and you'll notice a helicopter just went up in volume, and Lambert's just mentioned that we couldn't get Shetland, so that objective has then been cancelled, and the only thing left to do now is exfiltrate. Of course, I mentioned earlier in this video that I had this irrational need to scan the license plates on these cars, and I couldn't tell you why. Well, I'm actually going to do it now, and I'm going to do it tentatively because there are people here, as dark as this looks. That is a guy bang next to me. I've just broke his jawbone, but or fractured his orbital. He'll be fine. He'll wake up, bit of swelling, couple of weeks of discomfort, and I'm sure he'll be okay. Also, some weird kind of lounge jazz just kicks up in this sequence. I think it's from these cars. Well, I said lounge jazz. It doesn't sound anything like lounge jazz anymore, does it? There's another guy. You see him just there? A lot of people, for some reason, just congregating in this area, being all sneaky, as I waste precious time scanning worthless license plates but I kept it in because, you know, it's a bit of charm. This is a level you're probably not going to have much issue with. Most of the people coming to these videos are coming for maybe the battery level, maybe Soul, definitely the bathhouse. Like, I think the bathhouse is the one everybody's waiting for, because the bathhouse is the one where you finish it, you do it perfectly, and the game's still like, nope, you fucked up. And you sit there scratching your head thinking, when? Come on, Ubisoft, stop being thieves. Crazy. It's a thievery. But you should remember this as we move back towards the end of the level. It is back to those cliffs, it is back to the one guy patrolling, only now it's a little bit later than when we came in, and instead of sneaking past him, I'm going to put a piece of plastic into his skull, and he's going to fall over. Now we can freely get to the end of the level, and we can get the hell out of Hokkaido. And then the only places left are the battery, Seoul, bathhouse, and Kokobu Sosho, I think it's called. The Stutterer's Nightmare, that level. And there's the extraction, so let's check out how we did, boys and girls. Mission complete. Cancelled, completed. Got those microphones. 100%, one civ knocked out. See? Bullshit. Allegory. You can knock them out if you want to. 14, whatever that was, I missed it. And a trophy. Thank you for watching. You take care now.